What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall markets. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about other factors involving Tesla, what you should be watching for as time goes on. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amounts of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. Deposits $2,000 or more, you're guaranteed 40. The offer ends very soon in just about 7 days from now. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to Tesla in the markets. So Tesla saw a very, very explosive move after they absolutely crushed it with earnings, giving us better margins than expected, amazing growth potential for Q4 and for 2025 as a whole, with a 20 to 30% projection, which is what Elon Musk was talking about. Then we also saw some new products such as the Cybercab looking very promising, with production potentially starting next year and mass production in 2026. So there's more details than that. I just went over a couple of them. I went over more details about this in my video from the morning, not to mention my video yesterday, but I just wanted to say this was great news for Tesla. So Tesla was pushing all the way up around this 230 area in the morning. And once we broke this zone, I talked about 244 and 250 being targets. We ended up breaking through those. And then in my next video, I said that 258 to 260 is going to be our next target, which is where Tesla went to. So we went to every single target I called out, which is insane. Tesla also is a very, very big locomotive, which means it tends to have a lot of momentum that helps push it higher. So there's still more potential for it to go higher. However, after pumping so much, it is due for a little bit of a pullback. I think it might pull back just a bit for this 255 area, possibly 252, but that may be a bit of a stretch. So it might pull back just a bit in a very healthy fashion before this thing continues to pump more. So to answer the question, will Tesla explode again? The answer is yes. There's going to be another explosive move. We're probably not going to get another 22% move. We're not going to get another one like that for a while. That's like very, very unlikely. We could still see like 5 to 10% moves again, though, of course. So we will get that explosive move again, but for the time being, look for a little bit of a dip to start things off. It should gap down tomorrow morning before it continues to pump even more. So I'll talk more about this in just a couple of minutes. But once again, Tesla's still making a lot of headlines. There's all this talk about how Tesla's soaring. We're looking at the best day since 2013. Investors are just cheering on the Q3 reports, and billions and billions of dollars were pumped into Tesla stock, hundreds of billions, if anything. This is very, very awesome news. It's still making all the headlines right now. So I'm not going to go over more details about that news. I already went over this in my morning video. I first want to talk about some data. So what happened with our data release? Tomorrow is going to be Friday, October 25th, 2024. Just know that's tomorrow in the morning. There's not really much data coming out, but at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report, the five-year inflationary expectations, not to mention the Michigan consumer expectations. So look for some volatility at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But besides that, there's not really much else that's coming out in terms of data. For earnings, there's not much coming out as well. Very, very minor data that's coming out involving just a couple of companies out there like Piper Sandler and a few others, but everything's going to be very, very minor tomorrow in terms of its earnings. Just know that for today, we had American Airlines, which did okay with earnings. Their guidance was not as strong, but their overall earnings were decent. That's why the share price came down a bit. But UPS had very, very strong projections and good growth. That's why their earnings were strong and the share price was up. So that's what happened with earnings for today. Yesterday's when we had Tesla, which is still having a ripple effect in the markets. The market dipped a little bit only to get bought back up again at the end of the day. And we saw SPY and the QQQ all close green for a decent close. Now, for more data, we also have greed making up the majority of sentiment still. Momentum is still at greed. We're not at extremes right now, which gives the market more room for upside if we do end up getting that push. And then on top of this, the puts and call option ratio is starting to go up a little bit, which is becoming a little bit less in favor of calls. So we're starting to see a little bit more put buying as some bears have been stepping in. And as a result, the market has been dipping and now it's beginning to consolidate in a very, very tight range. The VIX has been dipping a bit, but it's trying to hold its 50 daily moving average. So we'll see if it retests that and bounces or not. I'll be waiting for that. Then finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about the broader markets is this. For SPY tomorrow, we have under 300,000 of these calls expiring or very close to 300,000. And then we have over 7.9 790,000, excuse me, guys, 790,000 plus of these puts expiring, so a little bit under 800,000. That's how many are going to be expiring. So it's a 578 max payment with a 2.62 put to call ratio. So that's very, very important for the way things are developing. So the majority of positions are in puts. There's almost about 2.6, 2.7 puts for every call expiring. And that does tend to lead to interesting volatility. So watch for that. For Tesla, we saw some interesting news. Needham gave Tesla a hold rating. Cantor Fitzgerald gave them a neutral rating, but we did see some new $330 price upgrades from different analysts, at least as the day went on. On top of this, the price price ratio is going up as Tesla's building some strength. We tend to see more volatility at 9 a.m. for Tesla, also at 1 p.m. And then during the second to last hour of the day, we tend to see more volatility. We tend to be green about 49% of the time on Fridays, so it's almost 50-50. October is historically a weaker month for Tesla, but Tesla's going to likely close October on a strong end. And we'll see how November goes as we have the election coming up. That is my view of Tesla. So far, some interesting stuff is coming out. Now, volume hit 202 million. That's more than twice the average volume we typically get. So a lot of volume came in, a lot of buyers, a lot of interest after this crazy day. So what do I think is going to happen for the share price now? I just want to focus on the charts from this point on. Honestly, guys, I'm very proud of Tesla and their team for the amazing work that they have done. And I think that the share price is very bullish overall. But for the short term, there's going to be a little retracement right here. We're going to be looking at this first support right here at 256, 255, around this range right here. This is previous resistance becoming support. If we lose the 255 area, we're looking for 252 as our next target. That's previous resistance becoming support. And that's not too far from the 250 area, close to the 0.236 fib retracement area. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down towards 245. That's previous resistance, which is where we had our chop zone. It's about 242. Those are your main supports. I think we might get closer to 250 to 255 to 252 in that range, but then Tesla could still attempt to bounce off one of those levels and still try to push for these highs to break all over again. I don't think Tesla's done. I think it's just cooling off just a bit during this after our recession, maybe during the pre-market as well, before it tries to get bought back up. So nonetheless, Tesla remains bullish in my personal opinion. On the daily time frame, guys, check this out. Tesla remains quite bullish. There's a nice inverse head and shoulders on the daily. We have this left shoulder here. We have a head and a right shoulder right here. And Tesla has continued to hold this very, very nicely. So what I anticipate is there could be an attempt to break out towards these highs in the 270 area. I think Tesla will eventually get there. Will Tesla explode again? The answer is yes, but we might start off with a small dip to start things off. So the technicals look more bullish on the daily and the 4-hour time frame. Also, the daily is nearing a PPO crossover, which tends to be more bullish. So this is favoring 270 plus, in my opinion. Now, could we slow down tomorrow morning? Yes, that's going to likely be the case, but there is still the upside potential that remains. So just keep that in mind. How about for SPY? What is my view of SPY? What do I think is going to happen? I would just want to call out that so far we're still attempting to hold above our daily 20 EMA, which is a sign of strength. But we're going to be looking at some key levels. So I think we're going to see some consolidation on SPY because of this. When you look at this, we are dipping below our rising wedge, but we're entering a very, very nice chop area. So just to clarify a couple of things, okay? If we lose 577, we're looking for 575 as our target. And if we manage to break past 581, we're looking for this imbalance fill for 582.5. Overall, however, we are still range bound. So please keep that in mind. We're still stuck within this range. My gut is telling me that SPY is going to attempt to push up to the upper resistance around the 580 area, dip back down, then consolidate for some time. Then we'll watch to see if we get a break to the upside or not, or the break to the downside. The chart is favoring upside a little bit more as we're making a higher low and we're seeing buyers defending. So I favor a push up tomorrow morning for 580, consolidation as it's going to be a Friday, and possibly by the end of the day, if not by Monday, there might be an attempt to push higher as the most likely case because we still have an imbalance to fill around 582. So I think 582 could be coming. Look for 580, a rejection, some consolidation, maybe a push for 582 after that. That's the most likely case for a bounce on SPY. But just to be safe, make sure you watch your levels. As long, as long as we don't lose 578, which is where we have this lower trend line, we're going to be fine. And as long as we don't lose 576, we're also going to be fine. That's the next main support. So I favor a little bit of a pop upon opens, consolidation, maybe a push after that. For more upside is the most likely case. I also say that because of the way ES is holding up. So ES also has this very, very key level right here. We have this resistance at 58.65. Now, if we were to lose 58.40, we're looking for a dip back down to the 58.30s. If we break past 58.65, we're looking for this imbalance fill, taking us up towards 58.82. My gut tells me that with this nice little Structure we had a low here. We came up, made a higher low, and we're just continuing to push. So this is favoring a push back up for the 5860s as we remain more bullish. For Nvidia, this is also looking more bullish. As long as we don't lose 138, I think we might see a lot of consolidation around this 140 area. So something like this where we continue to form this nice looking pennant. So look for a push most likely up to this imbalance for 141.5, a dip back down and some consolidation. And we'll see if we get a breakout or not. But overall, we're just stuck in this range being very, very tight. So give this the time it needs. For Bitcoin, we remain more bullish. If we end up losing basically 68,000, we're looking for a dip back down towards 67,750. If we break past 69,000, we're looking for a push back up towards 69,000. My gut is telling me that this is going to try to push for 68,800 and eventually test the 69,000 area. There might be an attempt to dip first before it tries to push higher for 68,800. So look for more upside potential in Bitcoin. We're getting bought up very, very nicely, so the potential is still there. So give this the time that it needs. For NQ, this looks a little bit more bullish to me. Now, as long as we don't lose 20,300, we're looking for a test of 20,397. I think 20,400 is coming. If we break that, we're looking for 20,500 as our potential targets. And then if we end up getting some kind of rejection, we're going to be looking for a dip back down for the way things are basically moving. But the 4-hour does look a little bit more bullish. We're favoring a break past 20,400, which if we break, we're looking for these highs to be retested. NQ looks a little bit more bullish as we have a low here. We came up in a higher low, and we're still favoring 20,500 as our target. I think there's a good chance we try to get that nice push. Now, if NQ gets a rejection of 20,004, we could be dipping, but I favor upside a little bit more looking at this setup, especially because we're trying to fight for our 50 EMA. So watch your levels just to be safe. As long as we don't lose 20,200, we remain more bullish. And this chart's favoring upside as the most likely case. For the QQQ, we're range bound technically. If we lose 491, we're looking for this target right here around 489. If we break past 492.7, we're looking for a pushback up for 494. I think the 4-hour looks a little bit more bullish right here. As we had a low here, we came up, made a higher low. So we're once again favoring 494 is the most likely case. I think that there's a good chance we try to end up going up. So I think that that's looking quite bullish right now. But I think that there's a good chance we see more buyers step in. And for the time being, we still remain a little bit more bullish for an imbalanced fill. So once again, as long as we don't lose 490, I favor 494 for the QQQ, and I think the odds favor upside. That's what I'm going to be looking for going into tomorrow. For Aapl, as long as we don't lose 229, I think we favor a push for 231.5. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For a few more, we have Netflix. Netflix is once again consolidating very nicely. We have the support to watch for at 750. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down towards 744. And we have this resistance where this imbalance is around 764. I think this chart is favoring that as long as we don't lose 750 tomorrow, we're looking for a target of at least 760 back up to the upside for a little bit of a bounce temporarily. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. For CELH or Celsius, we have this nice looking flag that's forming. I think that we could be on our way up to the upper trend line right here, taking us up to about the 32.4 area. So look for a little bit more upside and see if we get a rejection. As long as we don't lose 30, I favor 32.5, and we'll see what the move ends up being. For Palantir, we look a little bit more bullish. As long as 42.8 does not break, we favor 44. So the odds do favor this trying to push up higher. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. 44 is very, very probable. So give this the time that it needs for a little bit more upside. So give this some time, guys. I think we're doing a great job at holding up. And I think that the odds favor more upside for Palantir. So continue to do what we have to do. All right. So that's very, very key. For what else I see, we're going to be looking at Supermicro. This is once again favoring upside, trying to get up to about 46.8, 46.5, then 46.8. I think it looks a little bit more bullish as long as we don't lose 46 flat. I think that as long as we don't lose 46 to dip to about 45, we're favoring a push back up to this high around the 47 area. So look for more upside as the most likely case. Break 46.5, then we have this imbalance in the 47. So look for more upside as the most likely possibility. For Rivian, if we lose 10.38, we're looking for a dip back down towards 10.28. If we hold the support, we're looking for a big bounce for 10.6. We're kind of stuck in the middle, so we'll see which way this ends up going. But I think Rivian has more potential for upside as long as we don't lose 10.3. So we'll look and see if this support holds. As long as that support holds, we're looking for 10.6 as our target. We'll see if Rivian holds up, so give that the time that it needs as well. But so far, the chart is very bullish, making higher highs and higher lows. So we're doing a great job, in my personal opinion. Just know this: as long as we don't lose 10.47, we favor upside. This looks like it's going to be fighting for 11, which if we break, we're looking for 11.5. Look for a dip tomorrow morning back over here towards 10.67 to 10.7, then a bounce back up for an attempt to get up to 11 plus. So I want to see a dip and a bounce. So far, it looks more bullish. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're doing a good job at holding up. We're on a bit of a downtrend here, but I still think that as long as we don't lose 218, we're looking for a push. 221 is going to be our most likely case here. So 220.5 to 221, this range right here is likely coming. So watch to see if we get a push up here, and we'll see if we reject or not. But watch, I think there's a good chance that we attempt to rebound for 221. Then we'll see what happens after that. For AMD, AMD is also forming a nice range here. If we break past 155, we're looking for 156.7. If we end up losing support here at 152, we're looking for a dip. There's a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure developing on AMD. So this may see a temporary bounce if we can get back above 155. I think at least 155 is going to be tested, if not a little bit higher if that breaks. So let's see if that ends up being the case. For ARM, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We're actually losing our support, so it's not looking that great. But that's because it had its own news that came out that was a little bit more bearish. However, I just want to say this: despite the fact that it's looking a little bit weaker here, we could dip a little bit more towards 137 or below before it attempts to rebound. We need to get back above 142.7 to turn bullish. So look for a little bit of a dip then a bounce. We could be retesting the lower 140s a little bit below that before it attempts to rebound for 142 as the most likely case. For Coinbase is once again looking okay. It's attempting to rebound so far. As long as 206 holds, we push back up to 212. If 206 breaks, we're going back down to the 202 area. So far, this looks a little bit more bullish and looks like it wants to be pushing with Bitcoin. For Amazon, we are kind of rejecting right over here off this resistance. Look at this resistance around 187. If that rejects, we're going to be dipping back down. However, Amazon has been range bound for the last day and a half. So we like to get bought back up around 184, and around 187 we tend to get rejected. So I think we're most likely going to just remain range bound, going back and forth between 187 and 184. So the odds favor us once again continuing to be stuck in this range. I think that tomorrow we might just see a pop for 187, a dip back down to 185, and just continue to trade sideways until we see one of these levels break. It's just kind of stuck for now. Now for Meta, I see potential in this to try to rebound, but just know this: we do have a head and shoulders like structure that's developing on Meta and a double top. So it has like a double top for the head, a left shoulder, and a right shoulder. And we have this gap down here to fill. So Meta may attempt to rebound temporarily for about the 573 area, but we'll see if we get a rejection off the 570s or not. If that rejection comes, we're going to be looking for a bigger dip. And if we end up breaking through that, we're looking for a push. So we'll see which way this ends up going. So be very, very patient nonetheless. But look for an attempt to get up to about 573. If we come short, we could end up dipping. So I'll give this as much time as possible. For Microsoft, we're making lower highs right here. We're looking for 423 as our support, not to mention the 421s. And we have this resistance around this 426 area. Now, we're making lower highs, so we're getting a little bit tighter, so I think the odds do favor 423. So this might start dipping a little bit lower, and we'll see if we get a rebound or not, but I do think Microsoft might dip a little bit lower. So look for some downside potential in Microsoft towards that 421 area, and we'll see how it goes from there. For Google, Google's also kind of consolidating. It might dip just a little bit back down towards the 163s before it attempts to bounce again. So give it as much time as possible. DJT is range bound between 33 and 36, so expect some sideways price action for now. I'll look for a push tomorrow morning for 36 and then dip back down to 34, and just a lot of sideways price action. For the VIX, we have kind of like a double top. We're kind of rejecting here. If we don't hold above 19, we're looking for a dip back down to this imbalance towards 18.69. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. So give that a little bit more time as well. With the 10-year treasury yield, we look a little bit more bearish on the 4-hour. If we can't reclaim, 4.2, this could dip just a little bit. It's not really affecting the market as much, so I'm not as worried about this. Once this does affect the market, though, I will talk more about it. And then for the dollar, we look a little bit more bearish. We're actually dipping for now. Could this signify the market's trying to rebound? Well, the thing worth mentioning is that the dollar is not acting like normal. It's not really affecting the market the way it has in the past. So I'm not really too worried about that. With that being said, I'm seeing a lot of potential for the market to push a little higher for SPY in the QQQ, but some individual stocks such as Google and Meta are showing, Google and like Amazon look range bound. They're showing some weakness, whereas other stocks such as Supermicro and like Tesla have more potential. So as you guys can tell, the market's all over the place. Tesla, of all things, is very, very bullish overall. Might see a little bit of a pullback, a very, very healthy one tomorrow morning before we see buyers come back and we see another explosive move. So the answer to the question of the video, will Tesla explode? The answer is yes. We're going to see another explosion, another big move to the upside again. We might start off with a little bit of a dip to 255, if not a little bit below that. But then Tesla will rebound closer to 250 once we see more buyers step in. Okay, so Tesla's still bullish. Look for a little bit of a dip before more buyers step in, and we'll see how things go. I thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, night, or evening, and I'll be back tomorrow before the market opens for another update. Thanks again. Have a great day, and peace out.